We all know that the kingdom of Kaling was conquered by the Mauryan Emperor Ashok in the 8th year of his reign. And from the Ashokan inscription, it becomes clear that this conquest was a bloody affair for the people of Kaling. But the story of Kaling didn't end with their conquest by the Mauryas, because we find that soon after the decline of the Mauryas, the kingdom of Kaling again rose, and this time this kingdom was led by a king named Kharvel. Now this is what some of the storybooks tell us. And this story is based on an inscription that is found in a cave near the city of Bhubaneswar. This inscription is called Hathi Gumfa inscription. The cave in which this inscription is written is called Hathi Gumfa, hence the name Hathi Gumfa inscription. Now, in this video, we will talk about this inscription and what this inscription tells us about the story of Kaling. So, the Hathi Gumfa inscription was commissioned by a king named Kharvel. And in this inscription, there are 17 lines that tells us about the several achievements of King Kharvel. And before I talk about these achievements, I would like to talk about the inscription and particularly about the script and about the language in which this inscription is written. So we see that the inscription is written in Brahmi script, and we find that this Brahmi of the Hathi Gumfa inscription is more evolved than the Ashokan inscription. This would mean that it was quite a while after the period of Ashok that this inscription was written. The second point about this inscription is its language. Although the inscription is written in Prakrit, but what is interesting is the kind of Prakrit which is used in this inscription. We find that the kingdom of Kaling is situated in eastern India. So we would expect that a dialect of Prakrit which was spoken in this region would be used. So that would mean a dialect which would be similar to the Magadhi dialect of Prakrit would be used in this inscription. But what is interesting is that instead of using an eastern dialect of Prakrit, the script is written in a western dialect of Prakrit. So it is quite amusing that an inscription which is situated in eastern India uses a western dialect of Prakrit. Now, why that is the case? So there are many theories which historians have put forward, and one theory which I personally find most convincing is that this inscription was written by a Jain monk who used to reside in Western India. So the fact that he used to reside in Western India means that he learned the Western dialect of Prakrit. So when he was commissioned to write the inscription by King Kharvel, he used the language which he knew best, which was the language which was spoken in the western part of India. Now let's talk about what is written in the inscription. So here I would like to divide this part into two sections. So in the first section, we will talk about what this inscription tells us about King Kharvel himself. In the second part, we would talk about what were the various achievements that were mentioned in this inscription. So in this inscription, King Kharvel tells us that he is a descendant of Mahamegvahan who belonged to Chedi dynasty. Now, like most parts of ancient Indian history, we do not know who this Mahamegvahan was. So this means that historians have the opportunity to theorize about this particular evidence. So that is what some historians have tried to do. And according to one theory, it was under King Mahamegvahan that Kaling got his independence from the Mauryan Empire. And when he ascended the Kalingan throne, he established the Chedi dynasty. Now, this is a speculation, and we have no evidence to either prove or disapprove this theory. So it is entirely up to you whether if you want to believe in this theory or not. And apart from this, we are also told that at the age of 24, Kharvel became the king of Kaling. So these are some of the important points about King Kharvel that is mentioned in this inscription. Now, let's talk about the achievements of King Kharvel which this inscription describes. So in terms of achievement, this inscription describes several campaigns which King Kharvel undertook, and we are also told about the several acts of generosity which King Kharvel performed. So in this video, we will primarily focus on his several campaigns. According to this inscription, the first campaign which King Kharvel undertook was in the second year of his reign, and this was against Satakarni. This inscription tells us that an army was dispatched to the western regions disregarding Satakarni. Apart from this fact, we do not have enough evidence to find what happened in this campaign. And there is also questions about who this Satakarni was. But most historians believe that it was probably Satakarni I of the Satavahana kingdom who was mentioned in this inscription. After this campaign against Satakarni, Kharvel tells us that he also defeated the Rathikas and Bhojikas. Now these two names are important because the term Rathika and Bhojika also appears in the Ashokan inscription. So this suggests that the period of Ashok and the period of Kharvel was close to each other. Apart from this, we are also told that King Kharvel destroyed the confederacy of Tamr or Tamira people. Now these people used to reside in south, and according to some scholars, these Tamiras or Tamras were the Tamil people, and this would mean that King Kharvel undertook a campaign that was against the confederacy of Tamil kingdoms in southern India. Of all the different campaigns which King Kharvel undertook, it was his campaigns in North India which is of great importance to historians. And according to this inscription, King Kharvel undertook 3 campaigns to North India. And in this inscription, North India is described as Uttarpath and Bharat Varsh. The first North Indian campaign of King Kharvel happened in the 8th year of his reign. This campaign saw the invasion of Magad and the siege of the city of Rajgriha. This inscription tells us that because of this invasion, the Yavanas retreated back to Mathura. Now, these facts have raised several questions and also have provided several insights. Now, one of the most important points which we can learn from this inscription is that during this period, the city of Rajgriha was not abandoned. And apart from Patliputra, Rajgriha still played an important role. This can be seen from the fact that King Kharvel decided to lay siege on the city of Rajgriha. This inscription also raises an important question, and this has to do with the Yavanas who are mentioned in this inscription. Now, we do not know who this Yavana or the Yavana king was who retreated back to Mathura, although there are some historians who have tried to say that it was King Demetrius who is mentioned as King Dimita in this inscription. But this interpretation has been questioned by other historians, and we cannot pretty confidently say whether the king of Yavana, which is mentioned in this inscription, was Demetrius or Dimita. This has to do with the fact that the part where this king is mentioned is completely wiped out, or there are only some traces which are readable. So that is why we see that there are different interpretations for this part of the inscription. The second North Indian campaign, which was organized in the 10th year of King Kharvel's reign, did not bore any significant result. But the campaign which was undertaken in the 12th year of his reign was a very important event in the history of ancient India. This third campaign of King Kharvel was so successful that the king of Magad and Anga, Bahasatamita, fell on the feet of King Kharvel. Kharvel also boasts that he brought back the image of Jeen of Kaling that was taken away by King Nand. The term Jain is used for Jain Tirthankar. So this would mean that there was a King Nand who had taken away this Jain idol from Kaling. And it was in the third campaign of King Kharvel that this idol was brought back to Kaling. So these were the important achievements of King Kharvel that is mentioned in this inscription. But the names and the events that are described in this inscription also have raised several questions for historians. So the first question which this inscription raises is about King Kharvel himself and when did he exist. The inscription doesn't have any date, so it is important for us to see other clues that can tell us about the period of King Kharvel. So here we get the first clue, which is mentioned in the 6th line of the inscription. This line tells us that King Kharvel brought a canal to his capital city, and this canal was built by a Nanda king. Now the date when this canal was built is also mentioned, but the problem is that there are two interpretations of this date. The first is that this canal was built in the 103 year of King Nanda. The second interpretation, on the other hand, is that this canal was built some 300 years after King Nanda. So you can see that these two interpretations could have a serious impact on our conclusions about the period of King Kharvel. So we have to look at some other evidence. Apart from this, I have already described earlier that in the 3rd year of King Kharvel's campaign in the North India, we find that the king of Magad and Ang fell on the feet of King Kharvel. Now this king was Bahasatamita. So historians have tried to find out who this Bahasatamita was and when did he exist. So if we can find who this Bahasatamita was, we can also tell us what is the approximate period for the existence of King Kharvel. So when we try to find out about King Bahasatamita, we find that from Ahichatra, which is the Bareilly region, and from Kaushambi, which is the region around Prayag, historians and archaeologists have found several coins that have the name Bahasatamita. Apart from this, we also have an inscription that mentions the name Bahasatamita. So the fact that from Bareilly and Prayag there are different coins which have the name Bahasatamita, and from Mathura we have also the name Bahasatamita, this tells us that this king Bahasatamita ruled the region from Mathura and up to Anga. Now historians have also tried to find when was the period of King Bahasatamita, and the argument which these historians have put forward is that King Bahasatamita existed in the second half of 1st century BC, which would mean that King Bahasatamita existed between 50 BC up to 0 CE. So this is one argument. Now the second argument believes that King Bahasatamita was Pushyamitra Shunga. Now this argument is based on the fact that it was in the reign of Pushyamitra Shunga that Yavana army was able to conquer Patliputra, and we know this from Patanjali's Mahabhashya and also from Yug Puran. And we have discussed earlier in the Hathigumpha inscription, we are also told that Yavanas retreated back to Mathura. So these historians argue that it was probably the invasion of King Kharvel that made Yavanas retreat back to Mathura. So these are the two theories about King Kharvel's period. The first theory believes that King Kharvel existed in the period of Pushyamitra Shunga, which is around 180 BC. The second theory argues that King Kharvel existed in the second half of 1st century BC. So that means between 50 BC to 0 AD. Now these were the various theories which historians have put forward. I personally believe that if there are any new evidences which would come up in future, only then we could be sure of when King Kharvel existed. Without the new evidence, we are not sure whether King Kharvel existed in the period of Pushyamitra Shunga or some 100 years after Pushyamitra Shunga. Apart from this, we should also remember that it was only because of Hathigumpha inscription that we know about King Kharvel, and this would make us think that how many ancient Indian kings and their achievements which we have forgotten because there is no inscription that talks about them and their achievements. So we should always keep this in mind. Thank you for watching.